Welcome to our discussion. Today we're diving into a rather provocative exploration of China's socialist development and the challenges it poses to Western paradigms.
Absolutely, it's a bold topic. What stands out is the emphasis on China's long trajectory in building its own socialist path, right?
Yes, exactly. The content outlines how China has been following a unique model. Its socialist development isn't just about economics, but also ideology and political structure, which creates a kind of alternative to the liberal democratic model the West promotes.
Yep, intriguing. And I noticed it also touches on internal struggles within the Communist Party of China. What's your take on that?
Right, so one of the key points is that there's ongoing tension within the party itself. Different factions and challenges are shaping policy decisions. It's like they're constantly recalibrating their approach, which might weaken or conversely fortify their socialist agenda.
That recalibration sounds like it might either lead to innovation or internal discord. Would you say that these struggles are critical to understanding their development strategy?
Absolutely, they're central. The internal debates within the CPC reflect a kind of introspection about how socialist principles can work in a modern context. It's a balancing act between maintaining ideological purity and adapting to a globalized economy,
Yeah,
which is precisely where tensions with the West can arise.
and speaking of the West, the content also delves into the US's attempts to contain this rising socialist model, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. The discussion frames US foreign policy and economic maneuvers as attempts to curb China's growing influence. It's like a chess game in which traditional strategies are being upended by this multipolar reality.
Right. That chess game analogy really hits home. But isn't it a bit simplistic to view US actions only as containment? What about global market dynamics and ideological competition?
Good point, and I agree that it isn't one dimensional. While the narrative stresses containment, it also hints at the complexity, global market forces, alliances like BRICS, and shifting power balances. It suggests that America's strategies are part containment, but also about reasserting influence in a rapidly evolving world order.
I see that. So, in a sense, China's model, with its blend of development and strong state control, really is a challenge to Western liberal democracy. But how does that actually threaten the West? Is it just an identity clash, or is there more economic or strategic heft behind it?
It's definitely more than a mere identity clash. The threat is layered. Economically, China's rapid development provides a robust alternative economic model. And strategically, its partnerships with developing nations create a counterweight to Western influence.
Yeah, indeed. Exactly. And when you mention strategic alliances, you bring up multiplicity of factors, like during discussions of the multipolar world, right?
Correct. The concept of a multipolar world is central here. The idea is that the West is no longer the sole influencer, and China's socialist development, bolstered by global solidarity among, say, the global South and BRICS countries, is reshaping how power and influence work internationally.
Yep, that really does flip the traditional narrative on its head. However, I'm curious about the internal struggles within China's party. Could that not undermine their overseas influence if the party turns inward rather than outward?
That's an interesting critique. While internal strife might theoretically weaken the party externally, the narrative argues that these struggles actually lead to a more dynamic and adaptive system. It's like turbulence that forces a re-examination and reinvigoration of the policy, which in turn sharpens their ability to project power and ideological influence.
So you're saying that in some ways these internal contests can be a catalyst rather than a weakness?
Precisely. Think of it like internal competition in sports. It forces the team to up their game. Not every internal struggle leads to the collapse of an institution, but it might refine its competitive edge.
Right. And how do you think the West should react to this evolution? Is it all about countering or is there room for dialogue?
That's a pivotal question. The material suggests that while containment might seem like the initial response, it's a reactive strategy that risks missing opportunities for constructive engagement. The West could potentially learn from and even collaborate with aspects of China's model, especially when addressing global inequalities and developmental challenges.
Yeah. I tend to lean more towards the view that confrontation might escalate tensions unnecessarily. But it's a tough balance, protecting domestic values while engaging on issues of mutual benefit.
Exactly. And that balancing act is at the heart of this dynamic. The podcast underlines that it's not a binary outcome of win or lose. It's about reshaping global norms, finding a multipolar equilibrium where different models coexist, even if they fundamentally dispute each other.
Now, what do you think about the perspective that the US is simply trying to preserve its own established interests? Is that a fair reading of the containment narrative?
Yeah, it is quite fair. The argument goes that the United States is deeply invested in maintaining its current geopolitical structure, and any alternative, like China's model, disrupts that. It's not just about ideology, it's about global networks of trade,
Right, absolutely.
security, and influence that are all in flux.
And if we think about this from another angle, could China's development actually end up benefiting both sides through a more balanced global system?
That's a possibility, but the content frames it as a threat, largely because the results of such a balance are unpredictable. The potential for both cooperation and conflict is there. It's that unpredictability that causes
Yep.
alarm in the West.
There's an inherent risk factor in any major systemic shift, isn't there? Changing structures can lead to power vacuums and even miscalculations.
Absolutely, and that's why the debate is so charged. The transformative nature of China's model isn't just about policy, it's about reshaping the very narratives of what governance and economic success can look like.
Right. Given that, how do you see the future playing out? Is it likely we move towards conflict, or might there be a stable coexistence eventually?
I believe it could go either way. The narrative implies a tension that might lead to conflict if containment policies are too aggressive. However, there's also potential for a stable multipolar system if the West can recalibrate its own models for engagement. It's almost like walking a tightrope between safeguarding core interests and embracing new realities.
That tightrope analogy fits quite well. It's like trying to balance tradition and innovation at the same time.
Exactly. And adding to that is the role of international solidarity movements and alliances that might emerge outside the conventional Western sphere of influence. These alliances, even if informal, could validate China's approach as a viable
Yep.
alternative.
But here's something that puzzles me. If China's socialist development threatens the West, is it inherently aggressive, or is it simply a different path that challenges Western hegemony?
It's not inherently aggressive per se, but the threat is perceived in the disruption of the status quo. When an alternative system, one that has robust state involvement and a distinct ideological framework, begins to yield concrete successes, it shakes the confidence of traditional powers.
Right, exactly. So, would you say that the real conflict isn't on the battlefield, but on the battleground of ideas and economics?
Yes, definitely. The competition is very much ideological and economic. It's like two different blueprints for society vying for global acceptance. The West might see China's model as a repudiation of its values, resulting in a strategic containment that can sometimes escalate tensions unnecessarily.
Yet, if both sides can learn from each other, maybe we can forge a new system that's more inclusive of global diversity?
That's an optimistic outlook and a necessary one. While the conversation focuses on threats, it's also a call for understanding the complexity of global change. The provocative nature of the topic serves as a wake-up call that we may need to explore new partnerships and frameworks for global governance.
Exactly. This blend of internal political dynamics and external strategic contests really highlights the intricacies of our current world order. It's a compelling reminder of how interconnected our futures are.
Absolutely. And as we see this transformation unfolding, the key takeaway is the importance of dialogue and flexibility. While China's socialist development threatens to redefine power dynamics, it also offers an opportunity, a chance for both the West and the rest of the world to rethink and reimagine global cooperation.
Definitely. Thanks for breaking this down. It's a dense subject, but discussing it like this really clarifies the multi-layered challenges at play.
Anytime. The conversation isn't over. It's an ongoing debate about power, ideas, and the future world order, one that will only get more complex in the years ahead.
Agreed. Looking forward to the next turn of events in this global chess match.